Have you ever wondered if the way you approach self-pleasure as you get older is still safe and healthy? Maybe you've heard conflicting advice, or perhaps you just haven't thought much about it in years. But the truth is, as we move past 60, our bodies, and the ways we look after them, deserve a little extra attention, even in private matters like masturbation. Now, before you shy away or feel embarrassed, let me tell you, you're not alone. It's a topic that's often brushed under the rug, but today we're opening the door wide open, and I promise, you're in good company. Let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Robert Jansen, a men's health specialist and urologist with more than 30 years of experience guiding men through every stage of life, including the sometimes awkward questions no one else seems to want to answer. And you know what I've learned? Those questions are some of the most important, because they speak to your comfort, your confidence, and your quality of life. My practice is built on real conversations, and that's exactly what we're going to have today. So, if you're over 60 and curious about how to keep things safe and satisfying, you're in the right place. Let me share a story that might sound familiar. A few years back, a patient of mine, we'll call him Harold, came to see me for a routine checkup. Harold was 71, a retired teacher, sharp as a tack, but there was a hesitation when I asked about his overall well-being. After some gentle conversation, he admitted he'd been struggling with discomfort after masturbating. He felt silly even bringing it up, but also worried something was wrong. He asked me, "Is it safe to keep doing this at my age, or am I causing more harm than good?" Harold's question was honest, and behind it was the desire we all share, to keep enjoying life in every way possible, for as long as possible. That's really what today's conversation is about. It's not just about mechanics or technique, but about feeling secure, cared for, and empowered in your own skin, no matter your age. Masturbation is perfectly natural at any stage of life, but as we get older, there are some important adjustments we need to make. Sometimes, habits we formed in our 20s or 30s don't serve us well after 60. Certain mistakes, often made without realizing, can lead to unnecessary problems, irritation, soreness, or even injury. And these aren't just minor nuisances. They can affect your confidence, intimacy, and overall well-being. The good news is, a little knowledge goes a long way. By understanding how your body changes and what those changes mean for your personal habits, you can avoid the most common mistakes men make, and continue to enjoy this private aspect of life safely and comfortably. I'm here to help guide you, step by step, through everything you need to know. My goal is that, by the end of this video, you'll feel more informed, more at ease, and more in control of your health than ever before. Before we dive deeper, let me take a moment to welcome everyone who's new to this channel. If you find these kinds of honest conversations valuable, I'd love for you to join our growing community. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and tap that bell icon so you don't miss out on future advice tailored just for you. And if you feel this message resonates, leave a yes or no in the comments. Your feedback helps me understand your concerns, so I can keep providing the information that matters most. Now, back to Harold. As we continued talking, I learned that Harold's main issues stemmed from habits he'd never questioned, using the same motions, the same routines, and not paying attention to signs of irritation or dryness. What he didn't realize was that, after 60, the body's tissues become thinner and more sensitive, and healing can take a bit longer. Plus, with certain medications or health conditions, blood flow and sensation can change, making it easier to experience discomfort if we're not careful. Harold had unknowingly fallen into a few of the most common pitfalls I see in men his age. One of the first things we discussed was the importance of adjusting technique. Just like we adjust our exercise routines or our diets as we get older, the same goes for self-pleasure. There's no shame in needing to slow down, use a little more lubrication, or even try different positions that feel more comfortable for your joints and back. In fact, being open to these changes is a sign of wisdom, not weakness. Harold was relieved to hear that his concerns were common, and he left that day with practical tips that transformed his experience. No more soreness, no more worry, just a quiet sense of confidence. But let's take a step back. Why do these mistakes happen in the first place? For many men, it's a combination of habit and lack of information. Our generation grew up with very little frank, helpful talk about men's health, especially when it comes to intimacy and pleasure. Many still feel embarrassed or ashamed to ask their doctor about masturbation, so they muddle through in silence. But let me reassure you, There's absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, staying curious and proactive about your health, in all aspects, is something to be proud of. You might be wondering, is masturbation even good for me at my age? The answer, for most men, is yes. Regular self-pleasure can promote better sleep, reduce stress, support prostate health, and even keep your confidence strong, provided it's done safely and with care. But, as with everything else, a few simple precautions make all the difference between an enjoyable experience and one that causes discomfort or harm. Throughout my years in practice, I've seen the positive impact that good information can have. Men who learn to listen to their bodies, make thoughtful adjustments, and prioritize their own comfort not only avoid problems, they often rediscover a sense of ease and satisfaction that had been missing for years. For Harold, learning to pay attention to his body's signals and make small changes allowed him to reclaim a source of joy and relaxation he thought he'd lost. That's the value I hope to offer you here today. Practical, friendly advice that puts your well-being front and center. As we go along, I'll be sharing the 3 most common mistakes men make when it comes to masturbation after 60, and, more importantly, how you can avoid them. Each tip comes from real-life patient experiences, my own decades of practice, and the latest medical understanding about men's health as we age. The path to comfort, safety, and confidence is simpler than you might think, and it's open to every man, regardless of background or ability. So, if you've ever wondered whether you're doing things right, or if you could be enjoying yourself more safely, stick around. You're not alone, and you deserve straightforward, trustworthy guidance. Don't forget, if you're finding this conversation helpful, leave a yes or no in the comments below. I read every response and use your feedback to shape future topics. Our community is built on honesty and care, and I'm honored to have you as part of it. Let's continue this journey together, with open minds and a commitment to lifelong well-being. Let's keep this conversation going. Because now that we've set the stage and started talking openly, I want to help you really understand how your body changes after 60 and why that matters for safe, comfortable self-pleasure. In my 30 years as a urologist, I've found that most men, when given the right information, can make small adjustments that make a world of difference. And I've seen firsthand just how empowering it can be when those old worries are replaced with confidence. I remember sitting with Harold after our initial conversation. You could almost see the relief on his face when he realized he wasn't alone in his questions or his experiences. That's something I want for you, too. A sense of reassurance and understanding, knowing you're not the only one navigating this territory. The body, especially for men in their 60s and beyond, tells its story in new ways. Tissues get thinner, the skin loses some elasticity, and sometimes, especially if you're on medications like blood thinners or for high blood pressure, your sensitivity might change. All of this is normal, but it means we need to adapt. A big part of what I share with my patients, and now with you, is about listening to your body and treating it with the care it deserves. For example, one of the most common mistakes I see is simply using too much force or friction. This might have worked fine in our younger days, but now it can lead to irritation, tiny tears in the skin, or even minor bleeding. Things that can be alarming, even if they aren't dangerous. For Harold, this was exactly the issue. He didn't realize that as he got older, what once felt just right now left him feeling uncomfortable for hours or even days. This is where the importance of using a gentle touch, and, just as crucially, using the right lubrication, comes in. I cannot emphasize enough how much of a difference a good quality water-based lubricant can make. It's not just about comfort, it's about protecting that delicate skin, preventing irritation, and making the experience more enjoyable overall. Many men, like Harold, felt embarrassed to even buy or use lube at first, thinking it was only for problems or for couples. But in reality, it's a simple tool that can prevent the vast majority of soreness and discomfort. Some men try to make do with whatever's on hand, lotions or oils from the bathroom shelf. But these can actually do more harm than good, sometimes causing allergic reactions, rashes, or even infections if they aren't meant for sensitive areas. I always tell my patients, you wouldn't use engine oil in your kitchen, so don't use body lotion where your skin is thinnest and most sensitive. Water-based lubricants are widely available, inexpensive, and safe for nearly everyone. Making that one switch helped Harold enjoy his private time again without any more lingering pain or worry. Now, let's talk about another common scenario I see. especially in men who might live alone or who don't feel comfortable talking about their private health. Sometimes, the urge to rush or hide what you're doing leads to hurried, rough movements. Not only can this create physical discomfort, but it can make the whole experience feel stressful rather than relaxing. Masturbation is, at its best, a form of self-care, a chance to unwind, relieve tension, and connect with your own body. When you take your time and listen to what feels right, you're much less likely to end up with problems. Harold found that setting aside a few minutes for himself, rather than trying to get it over with, actually helped him enjoy a deeper sense of relaxation and even improved his sleep. Of course, there's another layer here that doesn't always get mentioned: the emotional side. Many men in their 60s and 70s grew up with a sense of shame or secrecy around these topics. It can be easy to internalize the idea that this part of life should be left behind or is somehow inappropriate as we age. But I want you to hear me clearly: sexual health is part of overall health at every stage of life. Feeling comfortable, safe, and confident in your own skin is as important now as it ever was. And that includes giving yourself permission to adapt, to be gentle, and to seek pleasure in ways that honor your current body. I also want to encourage you, if you feel comfortable, to ask questions, whether here in the comments, with your own doctor, or even with a trusted friend. The more we bring these conversations into the open, the easier it becomes for all of us to care for ourselves in body and mind. If you've already learned something new today, or if you've had a similar experience, tap the like button and let me know in the comments with a simple yes or no. I read your responses personally, and your feedback helps me create better content for men just like you. One of the most rewarding parts of my work is seeing patients transform their experience just by changing a few habits. Harold, for example, started using a gentle lubricant, slowed down, and paid attention to how his body felt during and after. Within just a couple of weeks, the soreness and irritation he'd been struggling with were completely gone. Not only that, but he felt more at peace and even noticed improvements in his mood. That's the kind of positive change that's possible when you treat yourself with a little extra care and understanding. Let's not forget the role of hydration and overall skin health. As we get older, our skin tends to become drier, and it takes longer to heal from minor scrapes or abrasions. Drinking enough water, moisturizing the skin, and making sure you aren't using harsh soaps all play a part in keeping things comfortable down there. And if you ever notice persistent redness, swelling, or pain that doesn't improve with gentle care, that's a good reason to check in with your doctor. It's always better to address small issues early, before they become something bigger. You deserve to feel good in your body, and you deserve clear, honest answers to the questions you might have been carrying for years. That's why I'm so passionate about sharing these insights with you, because I know how much of a difference it can make, not just in your physical comfort, but in your sense of well-being and peace of mind. Our bodies may change, but the need for self-respect, pleasure, and confidence never goes away. If you're finding this advice helpful and think others could benefit, I'd appreciate you subscribing and sharing the video. And please, leave a yes or no in the comments if you feel like these are the kinds of honest conversations we need more of. I review every comment and use your feedback to help guide future topics. Together, we're building a community that supports men's health at every age. With just a few mindful changes, being gentle, using proper lubrication, and giving yourself permission to care for your body the way it deserves, you can continue enjoying life's pleasures safely and comfortably. There's nothing more important than your health and happiness, and you have every right to both. Let's keep moving forward with knowledge, compassion, and a renewed sense of confidence. Let's continue our conversation, because now that you're beginning to see how a few simple changes, like using the right lubricant and giving yourself permission to slow down, can make such a difference, it's important to understand that the journey doesn't end there. There are other subtle, but significant, ways your body changes after 60, and knowing how to respond can keep you safe and comfortable for years to come. When Harold first came to me, he was frustrated not only by discomfort but also by a new kind of worry. Sometimes, after self-pleasure, he'd notice a bit of swelling or mild bruising, or he'd feel off for a day or two. He was nervous that this meant something was seriously wrong, or that he should just stop altogether. This is a story I hear from men all the time, and it highlights the second big mistake that's easy to make as we age: ignoring the signals your body is sending you. Or brushing off changes as just getting old. I can't stress enough how important it is to pay attention to those signals. Our bodies are wonderful at letting us know when they need something different or when we might be pushing too hard. In Harold's case, the mild swelling and bruising were signs that his technique needed even further adjustment. Sometimes, it's as simple as varying your grip, or trying new angles or hand positions to reduce pressure on sensitive areas. If you notice any changes, especially swelling, redness, or spots that are sore to the touch, give yourself a chance to rest and heal, just like you would with any other part of your body. These are not signs of weakness, but wisdom. Your body telling you it needs a little more kindness. Another thing I see often is men who continue out of habit, even when it no longer feels right. They may push through discomfort or ignore changes in how things look or feel, thinking it's just part of aging. But here's what I want you to remember. Discomfort is never something you simply have to accept. There are always ways to adjust, and in my practice, I've seen men like Harold discover more comfort, and even new sources of pleasure, just by becoming more attentive to what their bodies need now, not what worked 20 or 30 years ago. It's also worth mentioning that some health conditions common after 60, like diabetes, high blood pressure, or nerve issues, can make your skin and tissues more fragile. If you have one of these conditions, or if you're on medications that thin your blood, you'll want to be extra gentle. You might even want to check in with your doctor if you're noticing frequent irritation or any new changes. There's absolutely no shame in asking for advice. I've seen men who waited far too long simply because they felt embarrassed to bring up the topic, only to realize later that a quick, open conversation would have made all the difference. Harold, for example, started keeping a simple journal, not of private details, but just a note of when he felt uncomfortable or noticed something new. This allowed him to spot patterns and bring those to our appointments, which made it much easier for us to work together and keep him feeling his best. It's a small step, but it gave him a sense of control and partnership in his own health. Now, let's address another common question I hear. Is it possible to overdo it, even if things feel okay in the moment? The answer is yes, and that's the third big mistake, ignoring recovery time. Just like with exercise, your body sometimes needs longer to recover as you get older. What used to feel fine every day or even multiple times a day might now leave you a little sore or tired. That doesn't mean anything is wrong with you. It's just another way your body is asking for a slower pace. Listening to that need for rest, and giving yourself space between sessions, can prevent those nagging aches and help you enjoy more satisfying experiences in the long run. Harold learned that giving himself an extra day or two between sessions not only reduced discomfort, but also made each experience feel more special and less routine. He actually felt more satisfied, both physically and emotionally, by giving his body the time it needed to recharge. Sometimes, in our busy lives, we forget that pleasure isn't about frequency, it's about quality, comfort, and connection with ourselves. As we talk about these changes, I want to gently remind you that your feedback is valuable. If you feel this conversation is speaking to you, please like this video, subscribe, and tap the bell icon so you're always the first to know when new advice comes out. And if you found yourself nodding along, leave a simple yes or no in the comments. I read every one, and your feedback truly helps shape the topics and advice I offer. There's another layer here I see with many of my older patients. Sometimes, new worries about changes in function or appearance can stir up anxiety or self-doubt. Maybe you notice it takes longer to reach climax, or the sensations aren't quite what they used to be. That's not a sign that anything is wrong, but rather a completely normal part of aging. What's important is that you treat yourself with patience and respect. You've earned that. If you're struggling, it can help to experiment gently, perhaps adjusting pressure, rhythm, or even where and how you touch. Being open-minded can sometimes lead to unexpected enjoyment. One of the most beautiful outcomes I've witnessed is when men, like Harold, let go of old expectations and begin exploring new ways to find comfort and pleasure. It's not about fixing something that's broken, but about embracing your changing self with curiosity and care. It can actually be a deeply positive experience, helping you reconnect with your body in a new, more compassionate way. And I want you to know, you're not alone in any of this. Every man, no matter how confident or experienced, faces changes as he ages. What matters most is how you respond, with patience, adaptability, and a willingness to ask for support when you need it. If you're finding this message reassuring or if you've faced similar challenges, I'd love for you to let me know in the comments, or share this video with someone who might benefit. You never know who needs to hear they aren't alone. In Harold's case, these small changes made a world of difference. By using the right lubrication, listening to his body, taking recovery time seriously, and staying curious, he not only eliminated his discomfort but actually felt a new sense of control and contentment. That's the gift you can give yourself, too. Just a little more awareness, and a little more care, can open the door to a life that's comfortable, satisfying, and deeply your own. Thank you for being part of this open and honest conversation. If you've been quietly struggling or just had questions you never felt comfortable asking, know that this space is here for you. Your health matters, your comfort matters, and your pleasure matters. Together, let's keep supporting one another, learning, and growing at every age. As we come to the heart of this conversation, I want to remind you that everything we've talked about so far comes down to one central message. Your experience matters, and so does your comfort, physically, emotionally, and even spiritually. After 60, many men feel as if they're suddenly walking into uncharted territory, and I've seen just how isolating that can feel. But as Harold's journey shows, there's real freedom and joy in learning to listen to yourself and honor what your body needs, rather than what you think it should be doing. Now, I want to address a question that often lingers in the back of men's minds but rarely gets spoken aloud. What if something actually goes wrong? Maybe it's the worry about infection, or maybe it's that you've noticed something that just doesn't seem right. As a urologist, I want to assure you that these concerns are not only normal, they're healthy. When you take a curious and proactive approach to changes, you protect your well-being in the long run. Let's look at what happens when you ignore your body's signals or make one of those big mistakes we've discussed. For instance, some men notice persistent redness, swelling, or even tiny cuts that just don't seem to heal. Others might see a change in the color of the skin, or experience more frequent discomfort after masturbation than before. In Harold's case, once he began paying attention, he caught an early sign of a skin irritation that, left unchecked, might have led to a small infection. But because he knew to give himself time to heal and use a gentle, fragrance-free moisturizer, the issue resolved quickly. This is where a little vigilance goes a long way. If you notice pain that doesn't go away, swelling that lasts for more than a couple of days, or any discharge that seems unusual, don't try to tough it out. There's absolutely no shame in calling your doctor and getting things checked. Remember, the earlier you catch a problem, the easier it is to address, and most of the time, a bit of professional advice is all it takes to get you back on track. Another thing I hear from men, especially after 60, is a new or heightened anxiety around sexual health. Sometimes, this anxiety grows out of myths or misinformation, worries that masturbation might use up your energy or harm your prostate, or that there's something unnatural about enjoying pleasure at this stage of life. Nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, self-pleasure is a normal, healthy part of life at any age, and research shows it can support prostate health, lower stress, and even improve sleep. The key is making adjustments as your body changes and letting go of unnecessary guilt. And let's not forget the role that relationships can play. Some men feel guilty about self-pleasure, especially if they're married or have a partner. In my decades of practice, I've seen how healthy communication and honesty, whether with yourself or with your partner, can transform these feelings. Many couples find that open conversations about sexuality bring them closer, remove misunderstandings, and create more trust. If you're single, it can be a way of staying in touch with your body and maintaining a sense of vitality and independence. For Harold, the turning point was recognizing that self-care wasn't just about preventing discomfort or fixing problems, it was about honoring his own needs. When he stopped comparing himself to his younger self or worrying about what others might think, he discovered a renewed sense of confidence. It showed in his energy, in his mood, and even in how he related to others. That's the kind of quiet transformation I wish for every man who finds himself navigating this stage of life. So, what's the biggest takeaway? It's that your experience is unique and valid. There's no right frequency, no perfect technique, only what feels good, safe, and right for you in this moment. If you need to slow down, use more lubrication, or take more recovery time, that's not a sign of decline. It's a sign that you know yourself and are caring for yourself. And if you ever have concerns that linger or questions you can't shake, please reach out to a healthcare provider you trust. You're not alone, and there's always support available. Before we wrap up, let me encourage you once again. If you found value in this conversation, I'd truly appreciate it if you'd like the video, subscribe, and tap the bell icon so you'll always have access to practical, honest advice. And please, take a moment to leave a yes or no in the comments if this message resonates with you. I read every comment personally, and your stories and questions shape the topics we discuss here. Your feedback helps me help you, and others just like you. I want to thank everyone who's shared their experiences, questions, and encouragement along the way. Harold's journey is just one example of how a little curiosity, a bit of compassion, and a willingness to adapt can lead to a life that's not only comfortable, but deeply satisfying. Whether you're just beginning to pay attention to these changes, or you've been quietly working through them on your own, remember, you are part of a community here. You deserve to live with confidence and comfort in your body. You deserve to enjoy all aspects of life, including pleasure, at every stage. And you deserve answers that are honest, practical, and tailored to your needs, not one-size-fits-all advice, but real solutions for real men. If you ever feel uncertain or have questions you're hesitant to ask, remember that this is a safe space. Together, we're rewriting the story of what it means to age well, with dignity, with self-respect, and with a little bit of courage. As Harold discovered, sometimes all it takes is a small shift in how you approach things. Listening more closely, caring more deeply, and being willing to try something new. The results speak for themselves. More comfort, less worry, and a greater sense of satisfaction and peace. That's my wish for you, and for every man who's chosen to keep learning, growing, and embracing life fully, no matter what age is on the calendar. Thank you for being here, for your trust, and for your openness. You're doing something good for yourself just by seeking out this information, and I'm honored to be part of your journey. If you'd like more conversations like this, don't forget to subscribe and let me know in the comments. Your voice matters, and together, we're building a community of support, honesty, and hope.